So you're friends with Jay Z, and then at one point it turns romantic.
After a year.
After a year.
After about a year and some change,
Okay.
as things change. Yeah.
And this was Jay Z during which album? I mean, Reasonable Doubt was already out.
This was okay. Reasonable. I met Jay Z right after he dropped Reasonable Doubt.
Right.
Reasonable Doubt was out like a minute because I remember like, oh, what's this? Who's this? Oh, I like this song. And then I met him through a friend at a party. And the next day, Nas and I got into like some big fight, and he pissed me off. And so I just thought, let me call Jay Z. What's going on with him?
Okay. Now, Jay Z's first single sampled Nas on the hook, Dead Presidents.
Yes.
So there's already this interesting connection between Jay Z and Nas from the jump.
Right. But you know how I looked at that? I looked at, oh, that's the producer who sampled it. I didn't look at it. I didn't honestly see the correlation in the very beginning. Like, I didn't even think twice, like, oh, well, these two might.
Okay. But
Over.
Jay Z knew that you had a daughter with Nas.
Yes, he did. He was aware of that.
He was aware of that. Okay. So you guys are messing around. You and Nas are getting into problems, are having problems with your relationship.
Yes.
At what point does Takeover come out?
Takeover came out. I had already left Nas.
Okay.
I had already broken up with him. I shipped all of my things to LA. I moved. I packed Desi and I up. We were already out. So when that came about, Nas and I were not together. We were not in a relationship. We were still going back and forth like couples do who immediately break up. We were still seeing each other. It wasn't like the relationship was, completely null and void. That's difficult. You know what I mean? It takes a little bit of time to get over someone you've been in a relationship with for a decade. So I'm not going to say we weren't still intimate and seeing each other, but we weren't living together and we were not in a relationship. Takeover came when Takeover actually is a product of Jay Z just being emotional. That's the honest truth.
Okay, well, I interviewed Memphis Bleek when Jay and Nas were going at it. How did you feel about that?
I started that drama, so what you mean how I feel about it? I felt like I got my big homie in some shit. It's going down out here in these New York streets. We gotta hold it down.
I know the Memphis Bleek story, and honestly, I feel sorry for Memphis Bleek because he got thrown in there like some kind of pawn. For him to think that he would be the cause of, a rap battle that has gone down in history between the biggest hip-hop icons in the world, that's a terrible mistake on his part. And I feel bad for him because his whole entire career was ruined as a result of him trying to even take a shot at Nas. And I blame Jay Z for that because he pushed him out there to do that. Like, it was like testing the waters, so to speak. Like, I'm just gonna let you go and, feel this situation out. And let's just see, what happens. And what happened was he got his head taken off immediately. And everyone in the industry, that's anyone, Steve Stout included, we all agreed that was a bad move on Jay's part, and Memphis Bleek did not deserve that.
Okay. But there's another story. You feel you were the cause of the beef between the two of them?
Well, here's my question. If I wasn't, then what was? That's the question I have to everybody because everyone seems to ask me that question, and I'm the only one who has the answer to it.
Okay.
If you ask Nas, if you ask Jay Z, they're never going to answer that question.
So what is your answer to this?
I'm the reason why they had.
Okay. Was there a specific thing that happened?
No, there was no specific thing. It's just like in any relationship when you're dating more than one person, there's a number of things that happen. There were so many things that happened that no one was aware of. Phones being snatched, calls being made, texts going back and forth between people. All of those things weren't divulged in the songs. These are things that were taking place behind the scene. Memphis Bleek was thrown as like a dart at Nas to just, spark a flame, to, shed a little bit of blood, just to see what was going to happen on the other end.
At one point, you were pregnant by Jay?
Yes, I had a miscarriage.
Okay, this was before the whole
This was like before all of that.
How far along were you?
I believe I was definitely less than 3 months. It was the first trimester. It wasn't.
It was still early.
Exactly. Yeah, it wasn't anything crazy. It wasn't planned. It wasn't like, oh, we're gonna have this baby and, move forward with our. No.
Okay. When you told Jay that you were pregnant, what was his reaction?
I told him after the fact.
Oh, you told him after.
I told him after the fact.
Okay, so he didn't even know.
No, I told him after the fact.
So, Takeover comes out, and you're saying that Nas and Jay were already sort of communicating with each other in a way?
The beef was already brewing. It was on, if you listen to mixtapes, radio, interviews. We have social media now, so, you can see people throwing shade. Back then, you couldn't really see it. You had to listen out for it and just be aware of it. But the beef had started way before the songs dropped.
Okay, because I'd heard, Is That Your Chick was about you?
And here's the thing. It was, but it wasn't. That was Jay Z. Like, again, Jay Z is a very subliminal type. You know what I mean? He throws little. See, me, I don't throw shade. I pick up the whole fucking tree and swing. That's just me. That's just me.
Okay.
But he's that character. Like, let me just throw a little. I'm gonna tease you here and there. I'm gonna. Okay.
So the two of them were already beefing with each other. And
way before
But Jay made it public with Takeover.
Jay made it public with Takeover.
Okay. Takeover comes out, and it's a big deal.
Mm-hmm. It was a big deal. And that was a good song. We're not going to front on
Takeover's
the
dope.
song.
Takeover's dope.
We're not going to front on the song.
Wait, were you mentioning Takeover or no?
Sort of, kind of. My name wasn't mentioned, but there was, like, again, the subliminals at the end, the little, the little things that Jay Z does.
Okay. Once Takeover came out, did you and Nas have a conversation about it?
Nas called me immediately.
Okay.
Again, like I said, we weren't even together.
What was that phone call like?
It was in the middle of the night, for sure. It had to be like 3 o'clock in the morning, my time. And honestly, I didn't even know what he was saying. I was half asleep, and I couldn't really understand it. And I was like, I got to hear the song to really, internalize what's going on so I can give you a sincere reaction. So it wasn't until the next day that I was able to absorb everything that was going on, assess it, and then have a conversation with him about it. And once I realized what Jay was doing, I was like, you know what? I'm not going to allow him to belittle Nas anymore. Like, I'm the only person on the planet that could belittle this nigga. I'm not letting anybody else have that opportunity. And so I just called Nas, like, all right, let's talk. So I had a conversation with Nas like any attorney would have with their client.
Okay.
And I just basically told him, listen, if you want to win this case, you're going to have to go this route. Because I knew what type of person Jay Z was. Jay Z is he can be insecure. He has a little bit of low self-esteem in certain areas. And he's sensitive. And I kind of knew what areas, we all have sensitivities. We all have, things about us that we don't necessarily want the public to know about. And I told Nas, this is your opportunity to do whatever you need to do, but you have to do it all in one song. Like, all of this subliminal, drop and mix, just rock this nigga, and let's move on.
Okay. And then that became Ether.
I told Nas everything that transpired between Jay Z and I so that he could write the song consciously knowing what could come back as far as, like, a rebuttal. And I told Nas, basically, I've done everything with him that a man has done with his mother and his sister, his nieces, like, we're human beings. I'm a woman, he's a man. Like, to think that, I'm on this pedestal, and like I'm not. I'm a human being. I'm like a regular woman. I have desires. I have needs, and this was my best friend. Like this was my Jay Z and I were really, really good friends. And don't get me wrong, I felt for him as well, but I also felt like, nigga, you started this.
Okay, so did you and Jay have a conversation?
Yes, we did. And I told him to chill out.
And what did he say?
I told him to relax. This is what I said. I said, listen, because again, I was evolving spiritually. I said, right now, we are experiencing opportunities to become better people. We have to start making choices. Our reactions are everything right now, moving forward. We could really set the precedent for a whole new era moving forward in music. So I really felt like this was an exercise for us to just be who we could possibly be. I wanted to be the greatest and grandest version of the vision that I saw for myself in that moment. But neither one of them weren't on my level at that point. You know what I mean? They weren't on my vibration. They weren't on my frequency. So I did have this conversation with both of them. I told Jay to chill out, and he didn't. And then I just told, now, you know what, do what you got to do.
Okay.
Because this nigga will not chill.